What's up, guys? Welcome back or to the channel. Work Hard Ellswick, back out in the garage doing what I normally do. So we got this bracket powder coated and it came out really good. So I've been building this thing and I figured you guys probably wouldn't really need to see me screwing all the horns and stuff on the bracket, because that stuff's pretty much all self-explanatory. Regular nuts and bolts and whatnot. So I just about got this thing ready to go back on the truck. Got the compressors mounted, horns mounted, tank mounted, got all the wires, or excuse me, air hoses ran for the horns themselves, and I'm just doing up the wiring. So let me show you guys what I got here. So this was obviously a little bit easier this go around, because I figured all this stuff out before, but here's my mess I got going. So here's the old electric valve with the old hoses in it. So the last go around, you can see these hoses aren't exactly all the same length. Some of them's just a tiny bit shorter than the others. Generally no big deal. You will notice for a split second that when you hit the button to blow the horn, you'll hear one horn before you hear all the rest of them go off. So I actually measured everything this time and they're all exactly the same length. I didn't have them like rapid and spidering here. But the 6-position banjo, can you see it? She's down in there. There's the electric switch there, pressure switch, and all this wiring is just laying here. So here's my 2 relays. There's my distribution block with my 100 amp fuses in it, and all this stuff is going to get all tied up. So basically I just jumper these. Your 87 here is your power for your compressors. Your 30 on the bottom is the power for the actual relays. 87 and 87 are tied together. They go to the pressure switch. The other side of the pressure switch is part of the harness that's stayed on the truck. And then your 86 and 86 tie together, and it'll be part of the ground that goes over here. So these grounds going through here, and I'm just kind of running through this right now for you guys because it's very hard to see all this stuff. Once it's mounted up under the truck, this stuff is all up on top. But these grounds here, I have grounding straps that are on the truck that come up and bolt to these as well. So I'll get a terminal lug put on that. We'll get that tied there, and then when we get this thing back up and mount it, there'll be another ground coming off the frame of the truck right onto the bracket. Especially now that it's powder coated. The way that I did it before, I just had the grounding lugs in there and had everything tied up, and we just pulled the ground, you know, from the frame as it was bolted to the frame, and it worked for a little bit, but wasn't a good enough ground, so I put the grounding straps there, and it worked flawlessly after that. So kind of show you guys what I do to protect all this stuff, and I originally didn't do it. And I had to go back and redo it, and like I said, it's really hard to see all this stuff once it's mounted up on the truck. But I got some pretty big shrink tubage here, and I just mount this down. You know, it's big enough to fit like over the pressure switch, over the relays. So I cut that down to fit, so the wire feeds down in there, and then I fill it up with electric grease, and it keeps all the moisture and everything. I drove this thing through tsunamis last year for rainstorms. I drove it all through the winter, and I never had a problem with any of the electrical components. Now everything was rusty as shit when I pulled it back off this year, so I kind of went ahead and obviously it's powder coated now, so that's going to protect this from getting rusty, the bracket itself. But underneath all the washers here, for everything that's mounted to this, there is no metal to metal contact anymore, and this is all rust proof hardware that I picked up. So well, outside of the grounding lugs, I should say, but everything else that has a washer underneath that washer is rubber material, so you don't have metal to metal contact anymore, and that will kill off some of the rusting that happens from the two metals touching. Even down here on the mounting for the compressors, there's no metal from this compressor touching this bracket here. It's all rubber grommets in between everything, so everything's rubber mounted on this thing now. So hopefully with this being a daily driver, going through everything that it goes through, we won't have to worry about any of that. And this gets taken care of too. It gets covered up. And where this stuff sits, it's pretty high up underneath the truck. It really does not see a lot of moisture unless I'm driving through a creek or something and the water gets up that high. But it stays pretty well protected that high up underneath the truck. But we'll grease all this stuff too and make sure it doesn't have any kind of moisture or anything sitting on it. So where this is going to be a little bit different on this one is that when I did all the wiring the last time, everything was rolled up on the bracket, and I'll show you guys what this looks like, or maybe I'll shoot a time lapse of me finishing all this up. But all this stuff will get wire loomed and everything. We got more wire loom here. But when I tie all these wires together and get everything mounted where I want it and get everything covered, I'll get it all wire loomed up. But when I did this before, these will go into there. So I got the power wire, the big 1-aught power wire that comes back to here from the battery that's underneath the truck. We got the other side of the pressure switch wiring that comes back from the 5-position relay that's up underneath the left wheel well with the regular horn relay. So basically I got a switch in the truck. I turn the switch on, it energizes it, so when I blow my horn, I blow the normal horn in the truck, these go off. Normal horn goes off still too, but these go off. I flip that switch off, I have my normal horn, and it'll shut this whole deal down. And on a separate switch, because I didn't want it all on the same switch, I wanted to be able to get pressure back in the tank without the horn actually having to be on a separate switch. I got the actual compressors hooked up. So I hit the switch for the compressors. Compressors pick up, run, start pumping pressure into the tank, and then I can hit the other switch and blow the horn if I want to. So I put wire loom around the bracket here. Some of this stuff is kind of tight in here. This stuff is actually really tight. So I just protected all this stuff. I mean, you can look at these outside of being just a little dirty. None of them had a, that's from where it's mounted into the to the fitting itself. But I never had a blown airline. I never had a a wiring issue or nothing with this thing when I did it the last time. And so I figured I'd show you guys what I got, and I'll show you the finished product. I kind of got everything laid out, so I know where generally where I want stuff. I'm going to trim some of this stuff up and shorten it a little bit so I don't have all this extra wire laying there. We'll make it look real good. And then basically it's getting it bolted back up to the truck, putting the 1-aught in there, bringing the second wire that I got underneath the truck wrapped up right now, plugging it into that. And then if you can see under there, let's see if I can get it focused. There you go. That's the fitting right there that runs my my airline fitting that's hooked up to my bumper right there. So there's a 3/8 line underneath the truck already that'll plug right into that, because that's still on the truck. And oh yeah, and then the gauge is under there too. So I got a digital gauge in the truck. So that's right there, and that plug's wrapped up. So it'll literally just be putting the 4 bolts in it to mount it back up to the frame and plugging those couple of wires in, and they're all ran, and I'll tie them into this stuff once I get it mounted up on top. So pretty easy. This just doing it like this just made it real easy for me. Kind of makes it a complete package, kind of like if you will, when the guys use the spare tire locator kit to put the horns up, everything kind of ties right into that bracket. So I got everything tied right into this bracket. It's literally pulling the wires for this, a couple wires, a wire off the the pressure switch there, and then unplugging those couple of things underneath, and the whole thing drops down, and you can work on it. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's how she's looking. I'll get these wires slapped back on there, show you guys what that looks like, and we'll get this damn thing mounted back up underneath the truck. Alright guys, check this out. So I got all the wires. This thing's gotten dusty sitting out here. I'm gonna have to wipe it off. I got all the wires and everything all tied and locked down and into this thing. So we got our 2 power line wires running up to the distribution block here, with the fuses in it. I think I said 1/0 earlier, but it's 4 gauge. I just got 4 gauge wire coming back, so the 4 gauge will plug into there. All of our relays are all tied together. Our one line runs to the pressure switch off the relay. The other line will come in from what's rolled up underneath the truck right now. And I got everything locked down, so it's not gonna chafe or whatever you want to say and rub on anything. Even these lines here, I kind of got some thicker, you know, where they're sitting, kind of coming through the bracket. But that's everything tied together, what it's supposed to look like, or what it's supposed to look like for me. Everything's locked down and protected, good to go. And now I am getting ready to check. I got some jumper wires and stuff. I'm getting ready to check and make sure that both the compressors come on with the pressure switch, and this thing builds up some air. So one of the fittings that I have, you can kind of see it down in there, that is the line that will run to the air fitting that's coming off the back of my bumper there. So I just kind of got a line plugged into it right now with a screw in the end of it. So I may not be able to get the full, you know, PSI into the tank, because I know that's going to leak a little bit. But it'll at least let me know and confirm that I got everything wired correctly with the relays before I put this thing back on the truck. Last thing I want to do is put this big heavy beast back up underneath the truck and then figure out that I got something wired incorrectly or something. But I've done this a few times, so I'm pretty sure with myself that it's all wired correctly, but we shall see. So let me get you guys set up here, and I can get these jumper wires and stuff hooked up, and we'll make sure these compressors, make sure these compressors kick on. All right, hold on a second. All right, guys, basically I'm just going to use, you can't see it, it's sitting on my little stool down here, but I got a pretty big, it's just a battery charger, just enough so we can get 12 volts to this thing. So we'll put the power on there. We'll throw the ground down over here. That should be enough. And then we just got to energize the pressure switch like it would be energized when I hit the switch in the truck. So I'm just going to put a jumper wire from the opposite side of the pressure switch there and throw it over here as well on this positive side. And that should, oh, I got to get this on the metal here, not on the plastic. We just got back from playing baseball. I've not had any internet access, any telephone or nothing for the last week. We've kind of been at war with AT&T, but that's an entirely different story. Kind of nice not having no internet or no phone for a week though. All right, so these compressors should kick on. Let's see what setting that's at. As soon as I plug this in, either that or we're going to see a big puff of smoke, one or the other. Oh, there we go. Yep, they're both running. God, this thing's gotten dirty sitting here. I'm going to have to wipe this thing off. And you'll hear them slow down a bit because it's just like 10 amps. But as it starts to build pressure in the tank, you'll kind of hear them slow down a bit. hear it. All right. Yeah, I can hear that fitting leaking already, guys. That's all right. We know the compressors work, and it is coming from that. Cool. And I know this valve works already because I checked it. You can actually fill it, you know, when you're checking it. So the valve's good. I tested that already, and it just gets wired to. And I think I said this backwards in the first part of this video, but this gets wired to the 5-post relay on the left-hand side of the truck there. So when I hit the switch for this, it activates the horn. So basically the normal horn will work as the Hornblasters horn when I hit that switch. The other switch that I got up in the truck comes off the pressure switch here and activates the compressors. So I can keep a constant flow of air from the compressors in the tank without actually having the actual horn engaged, if you will. But generally when I jump in the truck and start it up, I'll hit both switches, and when I get out of the truck, I'll turn both of them off. But I can run the compressor and the tank for the air without worrying about the horn being activated if I want to. So all right. Easy enough. All right, guys, that'll wrap it up for this one. I just kind of wanted to show you guys what is actually going on underneath this. Like I said earlier, once this thing's mounted up underneath the truck, you won't be able to see any of this. Obviously, this is all on the top side of the bracket. That'll be closest to the bed, and you know, the tank, the compressors, and the horns are on the lower side, so it's really hard to see what's going on up here when this thing gets mounted on the truck. So we're good though. Our compressors work. I know everything's wired right, so we can pull this stuff back off. And next step will be getting this thing mounted back up underneath my truck, which will be happening real soon here. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this one. Like I said a little bit ago, I've kind of been off for a bit now. Didn't have any internet, didn't have any telephones. Kind of been at war with AT&T a little bit, but that's all rectified now, good to go. And I actually enjoyed the break a little bit. Kind of good not to unplug and not worry about that stuff there for a little while. So all right, guys, hope you guys appreciate this. Hit me up in the comments below if you have any questions on how I did any of this. But this is going to be a real solid install, and we shouldn't have any issues with this horn system once it's back on the truck whatsoever. I didn't have any issues with it before, and it's a lot more solid than it was before now with the way I got everything set up. So all right, guys, that's it for this one. I'm out of here.